So I want to start out tonight with a question, and it's almost a question that I don't even need to ask because I already know the answer. But I want to ask it anyway, which is, have you ever been annoyed at somebody? Yeah. I mean, have you ever been angry at somebody? Yeah. I mean, yes, we're all guys. We either like people or we don't like people. We've all been there. But I want to take it one step deeper. Have you ever had that person where when they walk in the room, or when somebody mentions their name, or you see them, on your voicemail or whatever it is, that something on the back of your neck, you just kind of tense up, and inside you there's, emotions start to well up of, anger, regret, envy, bitterness, whatever it is, and who that person is. Maybe it's an ex-wife, and maybe it's a coworker, a boss, friend, maybe somebody, in your family. Whoever that person is that elicits that deep in the pit of your stomach, it's like, And then it's when we go to those situations, and we all do, we all have that, I believe, if we're honest. There's a lot of ways of dealing with that. And actually, Stephen said something this week. And so if he'll come up here, I'm going to demonstrate one possible way of dealing with that type of a situation. Can't even get his way up here. But right, when we have those emotions, we have that seven-sided, there are different ways of dealing with it. And for some of us, we're confrontational. For some of us, it's in our minds we construct that confrontation. And if I met him in a back alley, I would. And for some of us, it's we're Christian guys. We know how we're supposed to act, and so we take those things that we feel and we just kind of put them down inside, bury them. Don't acknowledge it. We're not supposed to feel that way, so we just don't. Or especially if it's somebody we have to interact with a lot, we put on the mask. And it's inside we're seething, but on the outside we're smiling. And so I just want to take 5 minutes here, guys. I want to go around the table, and for you, who is that person? Who is that person that inside you is just kind of like, but and then tell the other guys, who's that person, and then how do you interact with them? What does it look like for you to interact with that person? Just a quick 5 minutes for you guys over on the side. I guess you just huddle up and maybe you two guys can go back in the drink area there with those two guys, but just take 5 minutes and who is that person? How do you interact with them? Guys, for me that guy was a guy named Andy who I went to college with, and from the first time that we met each other, we just didn't like each other, and honestly I don't even know why, but we actually lived in the same house together with a bunch of other guys. We played on the same. This is a broom ball jersey. We played on the same broom ball team together. And we actually served together in a campus church. But every chance that I got, I'd undercut him, try to do things or say things to make him look stupid. There was just something in me that just didn't like him, and it wasn't just then. It was, years later. Hadn't seen him for years, but he'd pop up on because we had a lot of similar friends. He'd pop up on Facebook on the suggested friends, or somebody would mention his name, and there was just something inside me that the same emotions would just get unleashed, and it was the anger and the bitterness, and I think to some degree, I was just walking around listening, and I think to some degree we all go there, and so what do we do with that? And Dave is going to come up, and he's going to tell his story about that.
I started to seek a relationship with Jesus Christ, and through those times of meeting with you guys and just being in community a lot and just really studying the Word, I found out a lot of things about myself, volumes of things about myself and about how God sees me. And I want to talk about a couple of things that interrupted me in my walk with the Lord. And specifically, I want to address kind of one issue that has resonated within me. And so I'm going to start, and this goes back about, I guess about a year and a half ago. My wife and I, as I just told you, were both pretty brand new Christians, and someone in the women's group said something to her that hurt her and made her feel, you know, unwanted and you know, unvalued, and it upset her. Moreover, it made me mad, and I held on to that, you know, that anger for probably, oh, I don't know, a good 6 months, or a better part of 6 months anyway. And you know, it's really funny because my wife had already forgiven this person, but every time that I would see this person, I'd turn my back, I'd walk away, I'd do whatever I had to do so I wouldn't have to address them, I wouldn't even have to recognize them. So sitting in encounters one evening, you know, I'd been for several weeks at this point, and I don't know, you know, I'd kind of lost my connection. I mean, I was still going, I was still enthused about going, but something had interrupted my flow with God. And so I sat down with Stephen one night at Encounters and just told him, I said, you know, I don't know what's going on, you know, but I'm not feeling connected. And so Stephen asked me, you know, do you have, you know, do you have any anything in your life, you know, any grudge or resentment, anything like that that's, you know, that's a problem? And, you know, as much as I wanted to say, no, not me, you know, he forced me to search my heart, and of course that it was there and it was revealed. So Stephen, you know, we talked through this for a long time, over the period of probably a couple weeks, and he said, well, you know, the Word says you've got to go to that person and apologize and ask for forgiveness. And of course, the first thing I thought was, you're out of your mind. You know, I'm not going to go and apologize to somebody that hurt, you know, caused hurt in my wife. And I planted my feet. I wasn't going to do it. And you know, the more we talked about it and the more he pointed out Scripture to me, I realized eventually that that's what I had to do. And so we set it up for the following week, and I met with this person one-on-one, and I told them how they'd made my wife feel. I told them how they made me feel. And I told them, yeah, every time I'd see you, I'd turn my back, I'd walk away, you know, you were basically dead to me. And so after we talked about that and we kind of talked through all that, I apologized and I asked this person for their forgiveness, and they forgave me. I went out to Encounters that night and sat down at a table, and I'll tell you, I was completely reconnected. It was just a really, really freeing experience. It's, you know, it's weird because it feels so unnatural, and you know, and you know, I don't think any of you, but maybe a couple, knew me before I was a Christian, and you know, before I started my walk with the Lord, I wouldn't apologize for anything, even if I was wrong. I wasn't apologizing. So it was hard for me. So I'm sorry I have to keep referring to my notes. As I said, I'm not a great speaker. The next encounter I had was, I don't know, probably 6 months or more later. And it was, I had been asked to join a Friday morning group with a bunch of guys that are here tonight. Most of them are here. And I'll tell you, I was a little nervous because they had been Christians, for the most part, they'd been Christians longer than I had, and they certainly had more biblical knowledge than I did, and I always felt like, you know, they probably had a closer walk with the Lord. So I went and prayed about it for a couple of days, and I really felt led to join this group, and so I did. And so we had been meeting at 5:40 on Friday mornings for, I guess, a few months, and I hadn't been sleeping good, and it was Wednesday, I didn't sleep at all. Thursday, I slept maybe an hour, and you know, the alarm was set for 4:30, and I finally woke up at 5:30, so I knew I was already late. And so basically I jumped in my clothes, ran out the door, not feeling good at all, unshaved, no shower. You know how you feel first thing in the morning. You can't wait to, you know, kind of jump in the shower and get ready to go. But so I was in a really bad mood, and I went that morning, and one of my brothers, who's here, oh, he's hiding in the back room, Sawyer. Sawyer was talking about something, and he addressed me, and I felt like what he said in my crappy state was a disrespectful remark, and it hurt, and it's certainly not the way he meant it, and it, in fact, he didn't mean it like that at all, but that's how I took it, because I was in such a horrible state of mind. I wanted to get up and leave right then, but I waited it out, and until the meeting was over, and then I got up and jetted out, because I just, you know, I didn't feel good about a lot of things. So I got to work, and like a, well, what do you say, south of here, north of here, anyway, you know what I mean. I got to work, and I fired off an email to Sawyer. And I honestly, I don't remember what I said, but I can assure you it wasn't kind, and it wasn't kind. And you know, it's terrible, because the second that I hit the send button, I regretted that action, and I wanted to take it back, but it was too late. That's how the internet works. So, you know, I already knew. I mean, I already knew that I had to go and apologize and ask for Sawyer's forgiveness. And, you know, I struggled with the words, because this was still, you know, it was still new to me, you know, doing this. And this time it was my fault. But I still struggled, and it took me several days to put the words together. And I sent Sawyer an email, and I apologized, and I asked for his forgiveness, and we met, and you know, showing his character and his faith, you know, he immediately forgave me, and we prayed together, and again, you know, that all that crap was lifted from me, right then, right there, and you know, I felt this strong connection to God again, and certainly to the Friday morning group. And then the last time was just about 6 weeks ago. My son had come to Christ, which is a good thing, and he had signed up for baptism. But I had some concerns about him being ready, and I was worried that maybe there was some peer pressure from the high school group for him to make this move, maybe before he was ready. And I just wanted to be sure. So I called Woody, and I said, Woody, can you meet me for lunch? Because I really want to talk to you about this. And so Woody met me for lunch, and you know, and I kind of laid it all out there on the table for him and said, you know, I just want to make sure that this isn't peer pressure, that you know, this decision is his own. And Woody said, well, I think what you need to do is you need to go talk to John Harney.